Hey, what is up, you beautiful people, and welcome to another video. In this video, we're going to go over on how we managed to design a custom launch center for the Ultra Coupe prototype, how we 3D printed some prototypes, and finally finished with a rigid and okay to look at but functional carbon fiber part. And we'll go through it step by step. So let's get started. Alright guys, really quickly I have a small announcement to make because a lot of you have been reaching out to me from my videos. Many of you guys have been asking me, hey, I'm not planning on building a car from scratch anytime soon, but I do plan on picking up some 3D modeling this year. Maybe some of you guys have some ideas of smaller products that you want to create, maybe finally start that business with that idea that you had, or maybe you just want to mess around with some 3D printers. I get a lot of questions like, hey, where do I get started in this whole mess? What is the best 3D modeling software to use? Which one is the easiest? Which one is the cheapest? What is the best 3D printer that I can have around the house? Which one is the best? What material should I use for this part? Is it ABS, PLA, carbon fiber? So because of this and many other questions that I also had when I first got started, I got together with some friends of mine and we're putting together a makers and collective private community for you. And the goal is to bring together like-minded people to help each other out in this journey, because this is a journey with a beginning and absolutely no end. Because the reality is there are hundreds, if not thousands, of hours of tutorials online that you can pick up and kind of get started that way. But I don't know about you, but for me the best way to learn something is to just jump right in. And after you watch a 40-minute tutorial, the next thing I want to do is I want to actually go ahead and get started with my own project. And I can be very impatient that way, and that's kind of how I was able to pick this up rather quickly. So because of the fact that this is not easy and the fact that I need to adapt this to my own projects that I'm working on, find the specific answers to your specific questions a lot of times can be difficult, if not just impossible. A lot of times I find myself posting questions on YouTube comments or Reddit, but the answer is not really what I'm looking for. And not only that, the last thing I want to do is when I'm trying to get some focused work done is be online on these platforms bombarded with ads left and right. And a lot of times when you ask ChatGPT or some of these large language models for specific answers, a lot of times you end up with the same answers that you found in a forum somewhere that got posted 5 years ago. So a lot of times for stuff like this, we have to rely on good old human knowledge, the one and true source that we know so far. So if this is the year that you're finally going to start procrastinating, click below, apply, and I'll see you on the other side. Oh yes, carbon fiber, the wonder super material car guys love so much. But this video is far from a love story. So in this video, you're gonna see me fail again and again and again and again as I try to crack the code to making carbon fiber parts at home. But in this case, the goal for today's video is to create what I'm calling a starter command center. I will show you the process in a minute, but first, let me describe the function of what it is that you're looking at. So this piece right here goes right in the center where the review mirror is supposed to be. Now, since this is a center seating 4-seater, you won't be able to see anything out the back. So this is housing a custom piece that is a digital rear view mirror with a camera that can be installed in the rear section of the car with a wide field of view. So we don't have the seats yet, we don't have proper brakes, we don't have lights, but we do have a 4K digital rear view camera, or at least we almost do have one. It still needs to be wired up. Now, the other reason why this piece is so important is because you see for the next couple of videos, I have to start working on the engine and finishing up the ignition system. So I need a custom part to just house the ignition switches. So how do we go about starting up the prototype? Well, so this switch right here is to turn on the electrical 12-volt system. And then this one right here is dedicated specifically for the fuel pump itself. Then we can turn on the ignition system. This is a prototype, right? So we're probably gonna go back and rewire this, but I know that I'm not gonna need more than these three. Maybe less, but not more. So I'm probably gonna change this up later on to improve the design. And the last button right here is to simply just start the engine. Now, before I designed anything, I made a detailed 3D scan of where this part needs to go, right above the driver's head. I tried using the geometry and the texture feature in the scanner, but this was yielding some inconsistent results, which makes sense because this is a large uniform section, and also 3D scanners really do not like black surfaces. So I end up using these markers over here and going back and scanning it again, and that finally worked for me. And after that, this is where the fun actually begins. Creating a part like this in Fusion is fairly easy if you know what you're doing. I mostly use the form function in Fusion. I know I needed 3 places for a jet fighter style toggle switch and a center section for the start button. I also knew that I wanted to fit the screen in there, but rather than that, I didn't really have any other design specifications and just allowed the creativity both to just kind of take me wherever it wants to take me. Now, when I first started learning Fusion, I remember I would spend hours on hours just looking for answers, trying to find out how is the best way to go about doing this. But I remember the very first time, the very first weekend where I was actually familiar myself. I was actually a little bit more familiar with what every button does. And for the first time, I remember I was just in a flow state where you can just spend hours just actually designing the stuff you want to design and spend hours actually doing the really important work, which is the design work. Instead of spending hours on YouTube and forums or Reddit trying to find out how to do this or how to do that, or try to find tutorials that you go through the video, you go through the entire video just to find out that actually it doesn't really answer what you were looking for. After the part was designed, I needed to create custom size holes. Now, there's a function of Fusion where you can easily add holes, but a lot of times I find myself subtracting objects instead. This is a really bad habit that I need to get out of my system, but it takes time. So after that was done, the other part was to actually put it in the 3D printer and start printing. Now, this is a fairly large part, but I was able to just split it in half and use the 2 printers to be able to print each half. All right, now when it comes to carbon fiber, there are a couple of ways you can go about doing it. There are a lot of better channels that talk about carbon fiber. I'm not really the expert on it, and I'm still learning about it. But one of the things you can do is you can use a 3D printer to create the mold and then build the carbon fiber part out of that mold, right? Just like how you do with fiberglass. Now, in this video here, what I'm actually doing is I'm doing something easier, which is called carbon fiber skinning, right? So all you're doing is you are applying a couple of layers of carbon fiber on top of the 3D print, and then I still use a suction bag, left it overnight, and actually I left it for a couple of days just to dry. And that gives you a part that is 3D printed underneath and then does have a carbon fiber on top to add that structural rigidity. But in the next video, my next goal will be to actually 3D print the mold, and then I'm going to use the negative mold to fill in with carbon fiber, do the suction bag again, and then just extract the final part out of it. And this is the beauty of this. A lot of times, you have the idea in your mind of what it's supposed to look like. You can easily design it in the software, but what's really going to separate the people who's going to actually, I believe, do this and people who ended up actually trying but then quitting is you will have to actually think how you're going to manufacture, so to speak, the part, because 3D printing is just the start. So in a sense, you have to think as a designer, but also as a crafter, like, hey, how are you going to actually do this? Are you just going to 3D print it and call it a day? Or what other extra steps does it need? And you need to design in your design software to be able to accommodate those extra steps. So this is the final stage as of right now. The goal will be to go back. I mean, it's always a learning process. I'm going to be using this to make better parts next one. So at this stage, I really just want to thank you again for watching this video through and through. For those of you guys that want to actually start doing this, want to learn more about 3D modeling, 3D printing, and actually small scale manufacturing in your garage, then feel free to click on the link below, and I will see you inside of the Makers and Collective group. So when you sign up, make sure to announce yourself and also tag me in that post. And again, thank you so much for watching, and I cannot wait to see you on the next video. Stay tuned.